This magic moment.
Welcome to Movie and a Beer, everybody. This is Dan bringing us in, and we have a baseball-rific, awesome episode waiting to explore here with my wonderful friends and co-hosts.
Hey, thank you for listening, dear listener. I'm Aaron. I'm glad to be here. I am your canine expert.
And I'm a co-host as well. My name is Blake. I'm your 90s movie expert.
Ooh.
Movies were made in the 90s.
They were.
What?
Mm-hmm. Hard to believe. Yeah.
And this is Brian. I am your sand expert.
Ooh.
I know everything about fine crystallite.
There you
That's
go.
why we're talking about Dune today.
Yes, no. We're doing a throwback to 1993 to a coming-of-age story called The Sandlot.
Was it 93 or 92?
93.
Oh.
The movie was set in 62.
Yeah,
62,
the movie.
93.
So this is a movie that uses some interesting, not a lot of green screen, not a lot of special effects. There's a little bit here and there. There's some movie magic, quote unquote.
Right.
There's some suspense of belief because there are animatronic dog parts that are like puppets that are like 5 times the size they're supposed to be. To
lot of stunts.
A lot of stunts. A lot of practical physical stunting going on.
Some classic jumping over a thing and spinning so you land on your back on a trampoline.
But dear listener,
Yes.
This movie isn't about stunts or animatronic puppets or anything. This movie is a movie with heart.
About baseball.
It's about friendship found on the Sandlot,
And
which is
yeah.
not me doing a bit. That's where this kid.
It's a coming of age sports film.
Yeah.
Well, I think baseball is just the vehicle
The
that
framework.
they utilize. The frame. It's a flashback. It's a guy telling a story from his memory, and there's memories within memories, and it does do
Dreams within memories.
It does the whole like wavy scene to show that he's going back in time in his memory. And of course, you know, the music that they had was really interesting, and
Delightful
I think
music.
we knew what we were going to watch ahead of time. And I know that there's baseball oriented and kid oriented because this is a movie about teenagers.
Wait, there's beer for children?
I'd say preteens.
Preteen.
Maybe
Well,
Benny's probably a teenager.
Yeah. So there's
Some of these are pretty young kids.
No, that's what I'm
so,
saying. Like they're
yeah.
Dan. Don't look at me, Dan.
Yeah, but
teenager.
okay.
Youth-oriented.
The framing element of this film is a adult
Yes.
Recalling one amazing summer.
an amazing summer from his childhood, which one would do after a couple of good beers.
correct.
true.
Wow, Brian, that was really well done. Yeah.
Yes.
One of us has to be the adult.
The first one I couldn't resist getting because it has the Kool-Aid guy on it, and it's called Cool Kid Hops.
Oh, yeah.
From Chapman Brewing.
Oh no,
which is-
Aaron, that's the Kool-Aid man. Kool-Aid guy goes, "What up?
Our jokes earlier was like, okay, I guess.
I'm
Yeah.
here now."
This is again they're the
Who put
Kool-Aid.
that wall there?
The Kool-Aid logo guy is the pitcher. The pitcher of Cool Hops is coming through the wall of the can.
It's a
and-
fun can. I'll make sure to get
It's-
pictures for the Instagram,
Yeah,
guys.
it's an interesting thing, but it's an imperial IPA. It's a little big,
But
and-
clearly, this man is filled with beer and not Kool-Aid.
Correct.
Like, there's no trademarks infringed.
Yeah.
He's carrying a hop.
Yeah.
He's carrying a hop. And that
This
was
foam.
that was acquired at Cerveza recently, and I'm really glad that I was able to find it. And then the second one that we tried, which was actually much better, just typical India Pale Ale from Stormbreaker Brewing called Chair Raiser IPA. And this is the official sponsored beer for the Portland Pickles, which is a minor league team that's here in town. They are not a feeder for anybody. They just play minor league ball.
But there is a baseball connection even beyond the Portland Pickles, because if you're a runner caught between two bases, I am by no means a baseball expert, but if you're caught between two bases and the defensive team is throwing the ball back and forth, you are in a pickle. And this movie does use that language more than once.
At least 3 times. Like it's the rule of threes for this. Like any
Yeah.
well-made story.
But the team was named the Portland Pickles because they can pickle that. Oh, you see what I did there?
No.
It's a reference to Portlandia. Look, gang, go watch Portlandia. We're going to do it for the podcast. Every episode.
One more episode. One episode.
Another episode. All right. So
Somehow
we're going to talk
Sarcastica.
about this. And this was actually purchased directly at Stormbreaker Brewing the other day. They have it available in cans and on draft at some locations. You can also go to the Portland Pickles bar on North Mississippi and get it on draft there at the official Portland Pickles location that you can go hang out at. It's an actual cool place. It's a sports bar.
Plenty of screens so you can watch if not just baseball, like whatever sport is playing that season.
Is there a sport that beer does not enhance the viewing experience of? Like, I mean, if you're thinking about like golf or bowling, like, I mean, I don't know.
Like, would you count chess as a sport? Because I imagine it wouldn't really enhance that much.
I went there too. Chess. If you drank beer, you'd fall asleep.
Yeah, because it's really slow. Or like people playing Connect 4 or some slow game. Like
That's a game and not a sport, Daniel.
You're not playing it right. That's a really good
Full
question.
contact Connect 4. I have no idea what that looks like.
Each time you drop it, you hit the other guy.
okay,
we'll figure it out.
This movie, The Sandlot, is 1993. It's been out a long time. We're going to spoil it a little bit. So, this young kid moves into a neighborhood, and his mom tells him they're down in the valley, probably San Bernardino or some one of the valleys.
He's got a new stepdad.
New
I think that's
stepdad.
important.
Played by Dennis Leary,
His
who I think is
father-
the biggest name in the movie.
Yeah,
along
I
with
think-
the woman who played Karen in the.
His
Indiana
parents.
Jones?
His parents were somewhat famous actors. The children
In
were child
1993.
actors.
Someone on to do more roles.
Yep. So he moves into the neighborhood. His mom's like, "You got to go out and make friends. Go
make friends."
outside."
And he's
'Cause
kind of an egghead, kind of a nerdy
he's a
kid.
nerdy kid. Doesn't know anything about
Straight
baseball.
A student.
Didn't learn how to throw a baseball. Didn't learn how to catch.
But he was taught. There's a neighbor who.
Benny and the Jet.
I hate that song so much.
Okay, so
Why?
I don't know. I just don't like it.
Really? What about the rest of Elton John's catalog?
3, 2, 1.
I love his.
Zip
The rest
it.
of his stuff is great. I just don't like that song. It goes on for so long, and I don't like it.
It's too repetitive.
yes.
I think so because I love his catalog.
Okay, Benny and the Jets.
Saturday night is a good night for fighting.
All right, so there's this kid who moves into a neighborhood, and the neighbor, Mr. Rodriguez, Benny's Jet, who that he then is known later on for, befriends him, takes him under his wing, gives him a baseball cap, gives him a glove, and says, "I will teach you."
Encourages the baseball journey and
invites him to join in with his Sandlot baseball club, right?
to be the ninth
So,
man to fill out a full
basically,
team.
the neighborhood kids have their own baseball team.
Yeah.
Like this movie's pretty positive overall. If you wanted to try and dig a negative message out of it, Benny's addicted to the sport. And he
Yeah.
really just wants a ninth man.
I
I don't think that's the case.
I was really expecting Benny to have this terrible home life, and like baseball was his escape.
Yeah.
And that would be the movie if it was made in like 2012.
Oh yeah.
This movie was, of course, 1993. It's more wholesome.
It's very wholesome. I don't think there's any real
Yeah,
negative takes on it, other than
The Bechdel test.
it does not pass that at all,
Not
in
at
any way,
all.
shape, or form.
There are
And-
two women.
There- yep.
One is there to kind of
One is-
facilitate some life lessons.
One is the mom, and the other is Wendy Peppercorn.
Who's
And Wendy
just a sex
Peppercorn,
object.
who has curves more than she has
Mm-hmm.
personality. Yeah.
And she knows what's going on, but she tries to save the child because the child was
That's
you
her
know, in a
job.
pool, and she was doing
She's a
her
lifeguard.
job.
That's
But
her job.
And
He
then
had
she-
ulterior motives.
He had ulterior motives,
Fun
as
note
it
for
was
that
explained.
Fun piece of trivia for that scene. The director told that kid actor, one rule for the scene: keep your tongue in your mouth.
Yeah,
That's what he said. Don't do that.
because that would be considered child
Creepy.
pornography and creepy.
It's mostly creepy. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of it hasn't. I will say it hasn't really aged well as it is.
Yeah.
But in the postscript, they do say those two characters do eventually
They get married,
couple.
have 9 children.
9 children.
Yes.
So really, that scene is their first date.
If you could call it that.
It's
If you could call
Squint's
it
first
that.
date and Peppercorn's
Squid
job. Squint.
It's like, we'll
Well,
just
okay.
move on to something else in the movie. at
She's
this
the
point,
authority figure, so therefore it's not sexual harassment.
because- No, she's in
Well,
charge.
he
doesn't work
manipulated
there.
her. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't work
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Let's talk about the other 7 children.
Yeah, so
6.
there's a bunch of other
There's 9 kids.
minor stories that happen. It is shown that the kids actually do know how to play ball really, really well because there's another team from the neighborhood or down the street
Yeah, a
that comes
sponsored
by,
team.
a sponsored team that plays at an actual stadium and not just some backyard.
And it's kind of an underdog story because we have our scrappy local neighborhood team.
Made up of like all shapes and sizes. Like
Yep.
we got
Yep.
Ham, who's a little heavier.
Yep.
Maybe in 90s terms, like the fattest kid, but like you
No,
know,
in
he-
60s terms,
he-
though, he would have been the fattest.
yeah. Yeah, who's just scrawny. The 2 weird kids, the
Brothers, that one always repeats what the other one says, and the one always
They
repeats what the other one says.
See, I was gonna go for it.
I'm sorry.
And then like the taller,
I should've-
dorkier guy.
I should have trusted you with the setup, and
That's all fine.
The pitcher who could actually really pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
And,
they talk about he went sort of
AAA.
semi-
AAA
AAA, but
league,
didn't
yeah.
quite get the rest of the way. So yeah, like but as a whole ragtag group of kids,
Yeah.
and like different shapes
the
and
nerd,
colors, and like
the African American kid, the Latino kid.
Yeah, they all did really good. I mean, I
and
think
then the other team was just tall white guys.
And they all
Yeah.
come together, based around this like similar like passion for the sport and or lack
Yeah.
of anything else to do.
you're
They
killing
seem
me,
to-
Smalls. You're killing me.
And they were having the summer of their life. I
Yeah.
mean, this was one memorable summer, and then the conflict is one adventure they had,
Yeah, the main
which
conflict.
which Dan's going to spoil.
Yes.
Dan's going to spoil. So we're going to say it's man against nature, right?
Right?
correct. So the
It's
stuff
the ball nature or the dog?
yeah,
The dog, the beast.
So
Okay.
the
Yeah.
kids teach Smalls, that's his nickname,
Yeah.
and his last name, but
Scotty Smalls.
Scotty
Scotty
Smalls.
Smalls.
They tell Smalls, hey, there's this yard that's behind center left. That if your ball goes in there or anything goes in there, it's gone because the dog that's in there is going to eat it. And if you try to retrieve it, the dog's going to eat you.
The house is a bit like Boo Radley vibes.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
It's a
bit
junkyard.
right? Yeah,
It's a
Yeah.
junkyard, and there's a lot of stuff that has fallen in the yard. And the thing is so the elderly gentleman that lives in the house is partially blind or fully blind. It's not really pointed out exactly, but
I think like legally to the point where like 99% of the time this man can't see.
He's got
you gotta
sunglasses
ba-
on.
you
We
kind
know
of find
about
out. You kind of find out
gotta-
he was a baseball player who
With-
got hit in the head,
And he was Darth Vader.
and he was Darth Vader
And he was your father.
And Mufasa.
and Mufasa.
Yeah.
And a
Father
lot of
in
other.
one
All I
sense.
know is James Earl Jones has the
And the
most
voice of CNN.
silky smooth voice.
This is Movie and a Beer.
Yes. So
That's my sad attempt.
he would probably be the biggest star out of all the known actors in the film.
And a comparatively minor role. Like
Yeah.
he's on screen
yeah.
for maybe 4 minutes.
yeah, at the very, very end. And that's cool because it comes full circle. Small says, why don't we just go up and knock on the door?
Right.
And the other kids are like, no, because he's an evil
Are you
person.
crazy?
and he
He's
will
the
eat
meanest
you.
old man in the world.
Meanest old man in the world. He'll feed you to his dog.
Yeah.
We saw a kid get fed to him once,
Right.
which
But-
leads into the framing device of it being
Like-
all through memory.
Yeah.
But all like coming of age stories, you have this
Oh, yeah.
fear, you have this obstruction, you have this challenge, and through the story, you come to meet it.
Everyone kind of grows, yeah. When Smalls first showed up, he couldn't throw a ball, he couldn't catch, and they all
Teased
this is
him
what, this is what made me
mercilessly.
this is what made me realize the whole memory thing. Kids are falling down like a vaudeville act, going ha, flop, flop, ha. It's so
because that's how
funny.
it feels, and that's how he
And
remembers
that's how
it.
exactly.
Yeah.
He remembered, oh boy, they sure laughed at me that day.
Yeah.
But then by the time they had to get this Babe Ruth signed baseball, this kid who didn't know who Baby Ruth was,
Yeah, babe.
knocked
It was signed by a girl.
yeah, it was
this
given to him by a girl,
named
Ruth something.
Yeah.
Baby Ruth.
We're all off
He's running
track.
the bases.
You see
He
how much
didn't
white
round the
space we
bases.
have in the last 10 minutes, like minute?
Yeah, it's okay.
You need to fix your equipment. The poor carpenter blames his tools, right?
Yes.
Not my tools.
So
Sorry, listener, bear
there's-
with us.
There's a lot going on with this film as far as storytelling and character development. Each of the characters in the team are allowed an opportunity to grow a little bit. Some of them more than others. I think that there's an equal amount of stress put on the emphasis of story and ignoring, like as you said, the challenges of youth. Having faced some sort of conflict, and then how to, they tried 10 different ways to get the ball back, and all of them failed.
And really, it comes down to it's Benny and Smalls' story. It's really Benny's story
Yeah.
because the big revelatory dream is Benny's.
Yes.
Benny's the one who gets
Benny
the
has the
ball
most
back.
commitment and the most drive.
Yep.
He's the organizing force of
This-
these other 8 kids.
And
Benny
Babe
was
Ruth,
the one.
Babe Ruth comes to him in a dream,
Yeah.
and is realized and personified in physical form.
But Smalls changes too. We see kind of in the postscript like what his life has become, and his trajectory has also totally changed
Oh yeah, from someone who
as a result. Like
just
so,
played with erector sets and didn't know anything about baseball.
right? Didn't know anything. about
Well, I,
Even less than his mom, a grown-up girl.
I think the lesson is that this kid grew because he found friends.
it. Yeah.
I'd agree with that.
The friendship was the catalyst for everything that came after in his life. This was the seminal moment of his life. Was this summer?
Yeah.
I would say.
It connects to a question I've been thinking about, Brian. Of could this movie have been made with any other sport or any other kind of like activity? If we were talking about water polo,
No.
could it be called the pool?
The pool lot.
The pool lot.
Why not? Can't you spike that ball over the fence into the junkyard dog?
Into the seal containment.
They're playing at SeaWorld.
With the
They're
polar
playing at
bears, man. With the
SeaWorld.
polar bears.
The polar bears and the,
yeah,
and the orcas.
the killer
and the-
whale tank.
But I mean, this could have been made about baseball. It was. It could have been made about football. Could have been made about hockey.
Maybe.
I
Right?
suppose.
Well, because you play hockey on the street with your stick and a ball if there's no ice, and in the summer.
It could have been broom ball. You're right. Yeah. I mean, that's what my people called it back in the
I
Midwest.
think the design of the sport is what makes it special because Benny just rotated between the spots and he just batted. Whoever, like one person batted, well, the other 8 were like in positions. Football, you have to split everyone into 2 teams to make it a sport. In hockey, you have to have at least, however many. Basketball, ideally 3 people per side.
So you can't do it with 9 characters.
It's tougher.
I mean,
I think
the numbers would have been different, but I think
Yeah.
anything that kids play over a summer when school's out,
Agreed.
You could make this movie about.
This could have been the Magic the Gathering movie.
It could
All right,
have
now
been.
you're speaking my language. But Aaron, you mentioned I was trying to express why I love listening to people talk about baseball, like baseball players and the sport, but I don't like watching it that much unless I'm there live. And you mentioned it's mythologized. Mm-hmm. It's America's oldest sport. Like it's America's sport, ostensibly. Like football now because capitalism.
Jazz, baseball, and rock and roll are like
Exactly.
contributions to civilization. Yeah.
There's a certain
Je ne sais quoi.
no, like I had that in my head, but it's not quite right. There's a certain just earthiness. There's a heart to it. I don't know.
You don't need a lot of equipment to play baseball. You need
No.
a ball, a bat, and a couple of gloves. Versus like football, you need padding. You need a helmet. You need resources. Like for like baseball, basketball, there are some sports that are more accessible that everybody can
Yeah,
play.
but I would argue with you. As kids, we played full on tackle football.
Without anything.
People got bloody noses. It was
Yeah.
fine. But that was a Midwest thing.
You're right. I remember that too. And then even
Yeah.
then, you think about ice hockey or broom ball. Like you didn't pad up for that either. It was maybe a little
No.
dangerous. Insurance
in
people
Clerks, they
listening
didn't
to this
pad
would
up.
be- yeah.
Clerks, they just got the street puck and just played.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the like a basketball. You need very little equipment. You need a hoop and a basketball and like
a flat surface.
a flat
sort of.
surface, and then you can play. Baseball is almost as easily accessible. Like you need a playing area. One person.
As long as you
needs a bat.
designate where the bases are and you're set.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
then there are other
you
sports.
could play stickball in the street,
Right.
Kind of not really have
Right.
bases.
And they even said when he first walked into the field and followed the neighbor who he became friends with, and Smalls is sitting there watching them, and he even says they're playing a continual game. They don't
They're not
keep
keeping
score.
no
They don't-
score.
They're scrimmaging the whole
They're
time.
scrimmaging the whole time.
Yeah.
They're just practicing, and that's why they're so good. Is because they just practice all the time. Versus
It's the love of the game versus let's
Yeah.
get in
And-
the details.
And everyone is given an equal opportunity. There are some players who are better than others as far as hitting home runs or hitting the ball and being able to do what they say they're going to do when they say they're going to do it. And that's a great thing. That's great that these children, these kids have figured out, at least I have these abilities and these skill sets that I can share with my friends.
We see that when they play the other team, they all get a hit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like a ham chats up the other team and makes them strike all over the place. But everyone, even Smalls, gets good hits against the other guys.
I do want to say there is some kind of appeal to baseball, though, that it's achieved this sort of international acceptance that like American football has not. The NFL, like, yeah, they've got these games in London every now and again as kind of a a side piece show.
Doesn't
center, but-
Japan love baseball?
But
Yeah.
Japan, South Korea, the most
Cuba.
exciting baseball game I've ever been to was in South Korea.
I buy that.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. But Cuba, Latin America, like there are whole stretches of the world that play this game.
Interesting.
And I think in part it's because there are so many different positions that use kind of asymmetrical talent and asymmetrical strength.
Yeah, shortstop has a different skill set from the outfield.
Right.
Yeah.
From
They do.
catcher, from
Pitching.
third base.
As a pitcher, you're playing a whole different game than everybody else, you know?
Right.
If you're Randy Johnson, you're murdering birds.
The big unit.
That's right. It's a big unit. His name's Randy Johnson. It's amazing.
But I will say, I personally find it kind of boring to watch because to me it feels like it's like 8 minutes of action packed.
We
into 3
will
hours.
get we'll record us going to a Pickles game
Jeez.
as a follow up special bonus episode,
Aw,
and you'll love it.
why?
It's a good time. It's
So
fun.
so you've been to what was this, a semi-pro or a pro league game that you went to, or just a
In Korea, it was a
yeah.
pro game. It was
game,
the
okay.
SK Wyverns versus the Twins, and I don't remember where the Twins are from in Korea. The Minnesota Twins, I'm acquainted
I was
with.
gonna say Minnesota, South Korea. They get their
Yeah,
own.
it was St. Paul, South Korea. How did you know? Right. Like no, but part of it was the energy of the crowd. I felt like I was at an Olympic event. Everybody was constantly cheering. There were cheerleaders
Yeah.
for this baseball game,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they
Interesting.
bounced the whole time. Like how they have all this energy. I
Drink
have
a lot of
no-
beer.
I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it's carbs. Maybe it's like I will say one of the things that I love most about South Korea was they have perfected beer and fried chicken as a combination.
Yes.
Like we will talk about Kentucky, but no, this is a nation of perfectionists, and they have done an amazing job. They call it chimik, which is a shortening hyphenated word for beer and fried chicken. Maybe a native Korean listener will tell me that I said it wrong, but it is phenomenally good. Kind of like the beers that we had tonight.
Don't you segue so fast. We got to talk more about the tequila scene.
There is
Daniel,
tequila.
you're gonna have to cut out all the drooling I just did. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, so there is drooling in the film.
Well, I
There's
mean, this is
also
it's a coming of age, like in
doing things with the bodily fluids in other ways.
because
It's not so
stupid
great.
kids are stupid kids,
And they got some chew.
to celebrate
Yes.
beating this team. They bought what they call big Indian chew,
Yeah.
and it's a real
Yeah, some tobacco dip.
It's
Yeah.
it's,
as it were.
it's an
Which
actual hunk of
a
tobacco.
a 60s thing, I think. Because when I was a
Yeah.
kid in the 90s, I don't think I actually knew anybody that legitimately did chew, but I was in Minnesota. I don't think it was in the right
When I was in middle
geography.
school, high school, people smoked, but nobody dipped until college.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But again, these kids follow
Indiana
baseball.
people dipped in high school.
But Indiana's like the
Still
southern part of
gross.
the north.
I'm not.
Right.
I'm not
Yeah,
doing a
yeah,
joke
yeah.
here, Brian. Were they baseball fans? Because these kids talk about like the pros do it. We're all going to chew dip because the pros do it.
And
Or
they,
they
don't
just-
know.
they just
and
did
they don't know what it
No,
is.
they
and-
like truckers.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
With
Yeah,
Swisher
yeah.
Sweets is what I remember from
Yeah.
my school. That was the I guess the vice of choice.
Our local
Which is-
homeless person smoked those all the time.
Yeah, and that's just raw tobacco leaf that's been dipped in something. It's as authentic cigarette as you can get, like from back in the day.
Like the 1690s, like
Yeah.
when tobacco took over Europe.
Yes.
Oh,
It's movie and tobacco.
Yes, it is.
Tobacco
So,
and a
so
beer.
the kids celebrate and go to a carnival during the summertime because this
Yeah.
movie takes place over a summertime.
I would call it
Yeah.
like an amusement park.
An amusement park carnival, like state fair.
I got
kind of
carnival
vibe.
vibes,
Well,
but
not even state fair. Like the local carnies come up and set up in a
Yeah.
vacant lot on a weekend.
So think Six Flags, but not as good as even.
I wouldn't
Six
even
Flags.
say that. I would say it to me.
Three
it was,
flags.
It was like
Two flags.
county fair.
That's fair.
Kind of vibe.
Yeah, but even smaller.
Even then, even super small.
1962.
So these
Yeah.
kids get on. They all take a bite of this chew
and get on this.
and get on this ride.
Like a twirly
And they
wheel
don't-
ride.
a
Thank
twirly
you.
yeah,
ride.
Trying to
twirly
remember the name
whirly
of it.
ride.
And they don't realize what they're supposed to do with this, nor how it is going to affect them, because none of them have any clue.
Which makes this scene so delightful because it's playing the classic hit Tequila with the ba ba da 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 da. And they're all grooving. They're all hanging out in their own seats.
And then
tuning
30
away.
seconds later-
in overtime, they're all oh boy.
Getting
Yeah,
more
you-
and more green.
You could just see on their faces that
Some,
it's like
some of them were wise to take it out of their mouth and throw it down. The others made a lot of burping noises. And we cut to
brown
brownish,
stuff being
green,
sprayed,
pea, soupy
vomit.
gunk.
Yeah.
sprayed on the ground.
And
sprayed
it-
on everybody.
But this may be the most coming of age moment of the whole film
Correct.
because it's that moment where you think you're an adult and you try something adult and you're not quite ready for it.
You
right.
fail miserably.
But then you get the opposite end with the night game,
Yeah.
which is one of my favorite scenes in a movie. Is them playing a night game on the 4th of July because there's fireworks everywhere.
Yeah.
It's going up, and
They're in a
and
backyard
because-
lot that's not
and
lit.
because
so,
Benny
yeah.
loves this game. He's like,
Yeah.
we're playing.
It's kind of the magic of being a kid and there not being any limits at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
He hits-
movie did make me nostalgic for that feeling of just
Right?
having like the freedom and the like, hey, we're gonna hang out today. What are we gonna do? The kind of this feeling you had with your childhood friends. I was thinking about my neighborhood friends as a kid while I was watching this movie. So I think this movie really succeeds.
Oh,
with
yeah.
kind of evoking that kind of that childhood nostalgia.
The director and writer, who's also the narrator, I think frames it well. But these kids do a good job of acting. Doing the job of that wonderment, that legit, that genuine child reaction of like squeaky voices. Oh, you really like this girl? Oh, you're such a weirdo. No, shut up. No, I don't. Like,
I got a lot of things on my mind.
Yeah, got a lot of things in my mind. He's clean his thick Coke bottle glasses.
Yeah, it's funny. And having gone to a swimming pool as a child many, many times, a community pool, that's exactly how it is.
Yeah.
You know, that was pretty authentic.
Right.
As far as visualizing, and then they just ran out and they're like running around in
Just
their
this
swim
mob
trunks
of
and they're
this
freaking
mob of children shrieking and running.
with their towels and their bare feet. I'm just like,
Yeah.
if I ran through this neighborhood down an alley with my bare feet, I would be worse for wear. I would have cut up feet because there's a lot of glass and crap out there now. Back then, not so much. People took care of stuff a little bit better, I think.
Or at least there was less stuff to throw down, to throw away.
Probably.
Wow, this took kind of a depressing turn.
Sorry.
So Hercules is awesome. It's a big, sweet doggy.
He is. He just wants to play catch.
So the third act is them losing the Babe Ruth ball and then dealing with the dog. The
So
beast.
second act, so our main protagonist loses a really precious object of his stepdad's.
Steals it and then loses it.
Who he doesn't have a good relationship with his stepdad yet. You know, still feels kind of tenuous and insecure with that whole family dynamic and situation. He takes this signed precious object,
which he
and loses it.
just didn't have the context because they say earlier in the movie when everyone's yelling all the nicknames of Babe Ruth, he goes, "Oh yeah, the Great Bambino. That's right."
Oh, that guy.
Never learned because he never got around to learning. He
And
never
wrote
asked
it
his
down,
stepdad
and wrote it down. I mean,
Like,
he
who
made
is
it a
he?
point to
But
know
he never-
who it was, but never did.
worked up the courage to ask.
He
his
thought it
stepdad.
was a ball signed by a girl named Ruth.
Yep,
Yeah.
Baby Ruth.
Yep.
Delicious candy bar.
Baby Ruth.
Oh yeah, that is a candy bar.
And they lost it in a junk dealer's house, and there was a
Enormous,
enormous
intimidating
junkyard dog,
Yeah.
the beast.
Who just wants to lick you on the face and play catch.
But
'cause,
so
you know.
can we talk about the story, the black and white story?
Yes,
that was
please.
that was so.
I think about
charming.
him saying "forever" at least once a month.
I mean, so one of who was
Squints.
it? Squints was telling the
His,
lore.
his grandfather
Yeah.
was there.
They're,
Yeah.
they're having a
grandfather-
sleepover in the treehouse.
in the treehouse, and so you get around to starting telling these
Ghost
ghost
stories.
stories. Yeah. And so Squints is starting to talk about the beast, this
Right,
very
this
frightening
junkyard dog.
intimidating dog who is
That's next to the Sandlot where they play the
Right.
baseball.
and who is really the foil for all of the third act.
Yeah, the antagonist.
The antagonist, yes. And so he's setting this up and talking about how his grandfather was chief of police. And, there were so many thieves in this junkyard that was it Mr. Malley?
Mr. Myrtle.
Mr. Myrtle had to get this enormous dog that he was feeding sides of beef to.
It started as a pup. He gave him sides of beef, and the beast liked it.
And the beast liked it and became this vast, enormous, ferocious animal.
This thing that ate 120 to 170. It's a big jumping number. He ate 170 people.
He ate 176 criminals.
Yeah. They all of them.
172. He ate all of them.
And when you're thinking criminals, striped black and white shirts, domino masks,
The
skull
Hamburglar.
caps. Oh yeah,
The Hamburglar. You think that
Robbo Robbo baby.
And it's so it's all in black and white. It's the way it's portrayed. I
Delightfully
found it so
grainy.
charming and it was so. It won me over entirely, and I knew it was not possibly true, but I loved the storytelling of it so
But
much.
it sure felt like a summer camp ghost story.
For sure, it was so authentic, and it's I don't know. Maybe it's because I kind of grew up. I'm of the generation that would have seen this. This is my first time seeing this film, but I'm the right age to have been the target audience when it was released. And I feel like it really resonated with me, maybe in part because it's that's my era. That's my
Everyone,
It felt parallel to your own childhood.
yeah.
everyone had a haunted house. Everyone had a pack of friends you just palled around with.
Everyone had a scary house on the block.
And,
you didn't want to go
at
in
least
the backyard.
at least one or two summers you were just with those friends all summer.
all the
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Definitely. And there's a lot to be said for storytelling that's done effectively. And this one, I think, does it really, really well. It uses the methods of just he doesn't have to narrate a whole lot, but he does on occasion when needed.
Right.
When he's running from the dog, it's
He sets the scenes up.
yeah, he sets him up. And it does really well because it's we tried everything we could possibly try. And this was the last thing we
3
could do.
vacuums,
Yeah.
having yeah on a sling, a broom handle.
The guy invented bungee jumping.
Yeah, and
because,
that's
great.
And that whole sequence showed kind of the teamwork, the team
Yeah.
dynamic They were all together to accomplish the goal, which was to get this guy's baseball back before the stepdad found out.
To help
guy who
Smalls
sh-
out. To help
Yeah,
Smalls out.
to help
Yeah.
this kid who showed up, couldn't throw a ball, couldn't catch, and now they're like risking their lives in their eyes. They're going to get eaten by this beast.
Because they're all a team. He's
Yeah,
he's
they're
one
best
of the,
friends.
He's one of the 9. He's one of the 9.
It's not just about baseball.
So I'm gonna sound totally like an old guy as I say this, but I think childhood has maybe changed because there are no screens, there are no devices.
oh yeah,
There's no
I'd agree.
like I don't think
When this came out in the 90s,
Yeah.
computers were
Pre-
very rare.
yeah.
right
Very
well early 90s for sure.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and I think because I remember playing baseball with just like who are the other kids around in my neighborhood, and
we
like
we
that
played a
was-
lot of hide and seek and tag.
Yeah.
Freeze tag, all that stuff.
Cowboys and
I
Indians.
I was gonna
remember
say, I'm not proud, but Cowboys and Indians also was a thing.
I remember moving to a new neighborhood and I got on my bike and just rode around till I found other kids, and those became my friends.
Right.
They were the first kids I found on my bike.
Well, that's what the mom said to do. Just go out, make friends.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
And I cannot see my 16-year-old and 13-year-old niece
Doing that.
even resonating with this film.
Yeah. They
And
wouldn't
that's-
understand
That's
it.
where I was going to go with
Yeah,
this, Brian.
yeah.
Of like, will this make sense to anybody under the age of 20 now? Like, I think this film might speak to like a childhood that doesn't really happen in the same way now.
So, yes, it's a time capsule in that way because I think everyone here on this table are old enough to have experienced something similar to this.
Right.
Yes, we might have had video games growing up at some point, but
As
we
Dan
weren't
stares
reliant
me
on
right
them.
dead in the eyes, my NES, my Sega Genesis.
Yes.
We
We
had a
didn't
Super
re-
Nintendo, man. I was there too.
I kind of wish I got
we
one.
didn't
Anyway.
rely on those exclusively. We had to go outside at some point. in
Oh
time.
yeah, we were told a lot to. I mean, I just got the new Pirates Darkwater game. Well, you go outside. Okay. And I still found some fun stuff to do. Wander around the swamp, go in that old house you're not supposed to go into.
Imagination says what?
Yeah.
Dude, we're all boys. If we find a good stick, we're keeping that stick.
Oh yeah, we had a
unspoken
woods,
rule.
and as long as we were home by dark,
Yep. When the
We
street
would-
lights went on.
It's when the street
screw
lights went
around
on.
in the woods.
Since
when
we
when the street lights went on, you had to go home for dinner.
Right,
I remember
yeah.
that rule. Yeah.
Yeah.
we had a yard and we lived in a rural area. As long as I just stayed to the yard and I responded when my parents called, it was good.
Yeah.
We didn't have street lights. We had the sun and fireflies. We don't have those out here.
No.
Oh, very few fireflies.
You have
And
crickets
as long
chirping.
as we drank beer out of sight of the adults, it was okay.
As a child, I got to
know.
try a beer once. Anyway, we drank beer today.
Right.
Yeah, all right. So this is the time of the podcast that I think we're done
talked about-
talking about the movie.
we talked about
Let's
chewy like.
maybe
We're gonna pivot to the beer. So
pivot
we're
to the beers.
the Kool-Aid Kid. Cool Kid Hops was the first one that we had, right?
And it is a Kool-Aid guy. I mean, it's the Kool-Aid logo.
It is.
What is going on?
He looks
yeah.
like he's filled with either beer or iced tea, so he's not the Kool-Aid man.
I'd argue the foam on top goes against the iced tea, but I like where you're going with it.
I think it's an orange juice.
Orange
disgusting.
Julius or Tang, maybe Tang that's been whipped up. I don't know.
So does he come
think
like
it's a
crawl
little
over the
too
counter?
pale for
Orange
that.
juice.
I think this is an iced tea.
I don't know.
Arizona.
But it is very much. We don't know how they're
Yorkshire.
I applaud them for finding a neat name, and they use the same font that the Kool-Aid. Thank you, Kraft, for not suing them into oblivion yet.
Right.
But Cool
Hey,
Kid
but if they
Hops-
find out about it from this podcast, that's a big stat. That means we're getting ears.
hey, there you go. And there's not a lot
I
of
start
marketing.
DMing
copy on this.
directly to Kraft.
Right.
But so we did pour this. This is a 8.2% and 85 IBU. So Chapman Brewing out of California, and Orange, California.
Notes
not
of
to be
peachy.
confused with the orange, Kool-Aid guy.
So
on the,
wait,
on the logo.
like Orange County, or is there a city called Orange?
There's a city called Orange.
I thought it was Orange City. Wasn't it Orange City?
Well, it just
Or
says
is it
Orange,
Orange?
California.
Oh,
That's
Orange.
what it
Yeah,
says.
okay. All right.
Cool.
So
Is that where oranges are from?
Yes.
I don't know.
There's also
So-
an Orange, Florida.
So this is a dark yellowish shade when we poured it out. Plenty of white foam. Aromatics. I told
yeah.
everybody, sniff it right away, and it had like mango and orange, but it was lighter.
It was a
I
little
missed
subtle.
that.
It was
It was
subtle.
kind of subtle.
Brian, did you sniff it? I didn't sniff it.
I did sniff it.
I
it was
messed up.
very hoppy.
Yeah.
Yes, a
I
lot
mean-
of aromatics.
So this is I think a beer that has some good aspects to it, but is missing the mark on a lot of it.
Well, I'm going to say I thought the nose was like really subdued.
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe I don't think I'm confusing it with the chair raiser, but This one, I thought there was a lot more hops once I was actually drinking it. But maybe it's just, I don't know, what I had for dinner kind of blew out my nose or whatever.
That happens.
Yeah, I did not sniff it, but I like the taste. It was very strong personality. It was like you knew you were drinking a beer.
It was sweeter than, it's a double IPA, so it's going to have a lot of residual sugar left over for all that yeast to eat up. And it's like, it doesn't say if it's double dry hopped or single dry hop, or it's just a big, it says double IPA. So we're just assuming they put a lot of extra malt in it.
It does say notes of peachy, tropical, and oh yeah.
Like
they're going
not to be confused with a wrestler who said "oh yeah" all the time.
Step into a Slim Jim.
Was that Macho Man Savage?
Macho Man Randy Savage is coming for you.
Okay. What beer did he drink? No, I'm kidding.
Probably Coors. Or cocaine.
Well, there was Modern Times Brewing here in Portland that had a giant pinata Macho Man Randy Savage that was hanging above the bar area.
I missed that.
That was
all right, dear listener, you heard it here first. Wrestling movies coming soon.
Yes.
I mean, I wouldn't recommend The Wrestler because it's really sad, but wrestling movies can be fun.
Yeah.
Was it $1 Million Baby? No, that's boxing.
That's boxing, and that's also really sad.
Yeah. So this is classified as a classic IPA with robust flavors, fruity but clean, lots of hops front to back, but there's a little bit of hotness from the alcohol content that didn't really match up with the acidity as well as I think it could have. And that's where, for me, it tasted more strong alcohol-y the second one we had was well balanced and not as strong. I don't know. It had some sharpness to it, but I think the sweetness just overpowered it in the end because of the alcohol percent.
I think the sweetness helping balance it out is what made it a pretty good match for the movie. I would like this with a more intense thing. Maybe The Goon, if we watch Shoresy, where there's a lot more like hockey hits. I think just like a general hard-hitting movie, I think would go better with this. But it worked pretty well.
I don't know. It wasn't bad, but we did the higher alcohol one to start with because I was like, we're going to drink a little bit more because we didn't want to do a whole lot of it, so we just shared it. And I think that was the good call because, it was enough. It was enough.
It was enough.
But the second beer that we had, which is called Chair Raiser IPA from Stormbreaker Brewing, which is located here in Portland, Oregon, 6%, 50 IBU, Amarillo, Cascade, Mosaic, Idaho 7 Cryo, and Sultana Lupulin pellets, which we can talk about in a moment. But there's a bunch of marketing copy on here, and we can also talk about the name of the beer and the actual the Portland Pickles. The Portland Pickles is a minor league baseball team here in town. And it's a pretty amazing a place to go watch a baseball game if you are so inclined.
Stormbreaker Chair Raiser. No pickles were harmed in the creation of this beer. Put your chair in the air and raise a pint every time the home team scores. With aromas of tropical fruit, pineapples, stone fruit, citrus, it's a real home run. It pairs perfectly with a pickles run.
There is a Portland Pickles bar that's over on North Mississippi, not far from the original Stormbreaker Brewing location. And
it's also not far from where we record, listener.
Correct. So
little geocaching for y'all.
Chair Raiser has to do with during their inaugural season, there was someone who, I don't know if it was a home run or just had a runner had gone across home plate, scored a run. And one of the pitchers who was in the bullpen was so excited, he was jumping up and down and then picked up his chair and was holding his folding chair over his head as he was jumping up and down and around.
This sounds like wrestling.
It does sound a lot very wrestling.
Pickles games are a lot like wrestling, which is not a joke.
The fans saw this and adopted it. So
they ripped the chairs out of the stands.
And they killed killed like 5 guys.
Those people who are not sitting on permanently installed chairs, every time they score a run,
they lift their
chairs up over their head. And so if you do go to the Pickles bar on North Mississippi, they have these little chairs that are actually like physical, like they're like little metal chairs that they have like attached to all the walls.
But like 1/6 size?
They're they're like
for sure.
3 inches tall. They're super small chairs. They're everywhere.
Barbie-sized chairs.
Yeah, little Barbie-sized chairs. But, I applaud Stormbreaker for making a really approachable beer. And the Portland Pickles mascot is a giant pickle with a smiley face.
It's Dylan the Pickle.
Dylan the Pickle. Mm-hmm. And he's on the label, and he's got a chair over his head. And, we had a discussion about why they would call it the Portland Pickles because, you're either going to be in a pickle if you're caught between the bases and they're throwing the ball back and forth.
Or
for me,
you can pickle that.
you can pickle that. And
pickle
I
that.
really, I have no idea. I want to say that there was a contest to name the team, and the Pickles just won out as the fan favorite.
You can pickle that as a Portlandia thing, right?
Correct.
And like, what the Portland Pickles precede. How many P's can I get into the sentence? The Portland Pickles precede Portlandia.
Well, it's probably the alliteration works well.
The alliteration does well.
I will-
Particularly well.
I will also say, as a husband of a gardener, cucumbers grow really well up here.
Yes, they do.
But how about the pickles?
On April 21st, 2015.
It's his movie and a pickling.
We can pickle
Oh,
that.
2015.
Now we're going to try that
You can
on
pickle
April
that.
21st, 2015, one day before my birthday. Fun. Team officials announced the team's name at Woodstock Elementary School in Southeast Portland. The name was selected by online voting from 6
Yes.
candidates. In order to vote, Pickles was followed by Mudhounds, Red Dogs, Posse, Pliers, and Pixels. I think Pickles is the best call.
Yeah.
Honorable mention to
Absolutely.
Pixels, because that's really silicon.
Mudhound
forest.
sounds offensive.
Yeah.
I hate that I said it twice now.
Yeah, it does sound like that's like a racial slur that you haven't known
Yeah.
what the connection was yet.
Oh, my grandma used to refer them as Mudhounds. Oh boy.
I know, but
Yeah.
Grandma, it's
Yeah.
really you. But, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a ghost.
So we did
Back to the beer.
Back to the beer. We
If
did
you- if
actually,
you insist.
we did actually pour this into into
Glasses.
glasses.
Yeah, we did both in
'cause,
glasses.
we wanted to do that because we want to experience the beer in both aromatic and.
In the future, you're going to have Pickles game. You're either drinking out of a can or a gigantic plastic baseball bat.
Yes, you are. Or if you go to the Pickles bar, they have it on draft, and or you
Oh,
can just
yeah.
go a block and a half down the street and go to Stormbreaker and get it on draft there, as well as in
true.
cans to go, which is actually a lot cheaper than buying it on draft. I digress. So this poured a golden hue with a medium white head, slightly sweet fruit, and a malty nose. So it really has a very approachable, not offensive IPA vibe. There's some toastiness to
Yeah,
the
I was
malt.
getting malty. I didn't get any fruit flavor on personally.
I
But
want to
again,
say
my
like sweet
taste buds-
orange and some mild pine resin. I mean, but it's a very earthy, dry, clean finish.
I did get
it,
earthy
it
dry.
does say tropical fruit and pineapple. I was not getting a lot of that.
I didn't get a lot of pineapple. I got more orange, like sweet orange peel, because I've used that in my own home brewing a bunch, and I know that that's bitterness more than anything. Yeah, and the pithiness and the pineness is going to marry up well together. That's why I kind of identified that more. But it is a really approachable, really nice beer. I applaud them for coming up with a great recipe, and I mean it's great marketing because you have the Pickles mascot. And if you ever go to the Pickles bar, there is a giant, like 10-foot tall pickle in a
Dylan
throne,
Pickle on a throne, yeah.
Dylan Pickle on a king's throne, sitting there. You can take pictures with. It's hilarious.
Listeners, this is not sponsored by the Portland Pickles. Hey, Portland Pickles, sponsor us.
Yeah,
we'll
well,
drink this beer every episode.
They've actually there's the Hillsborough Hops, which is an actual team named after a
That's a AAA team,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I looked for beers that were done by them or for them.
You
in
think that's
conjunction.
a natural beer tie-in?
There are 3 different breweries that are partnered with them, but the beers that they made specifically for it, and one of them was by Breakside, came out light like early last year, and there's no finding it anywhere. They had it on draft at one bar, and I'm like, I'm not going to go get a crowler of that or anything. We'll find
Dan
what we
fills
can
a pint
easily.
glass and just carefully brings it home.
So I want to
Carry it in
ask
my car with my hand.
I want to ask everybody here. I'm going to pivot just a little bit.
42.
Pivot from the Portland Pickles beer. Let's just say it is a warm August evening, much like the one we've got, and the bright lights are on a baseball diamond. What is the perfect beer that you want to drink while you're watching a baseball game of maybe a local team, AAA team? And I'll give you guys, I'll filibuster for a minute while you're thinking your answers. For me, I want a lager so cold that it like freezes to the glass a little bit around the edges.
Oh, you have a glass.
Well, I mean,
And
was
not a
picturing a
plastic,
plastic
not a plastic
cup.
okay.
cup.
I mean, okay. It'd be cold enough to freeze
Aaron,
that. in a
Aaron,
glass
don't take
of
this
wine.
as me attacking the idea. Like, I like that you imagine a glass. That's really cool. Please stick to it.
But I mean, like in a baseball field, they're not going to give you a real glass. I know that.
But
But I want it that cold.
yeah.
Yeah. So a really cold lager, because I'm going to be nursing that thing probably over 3 innings, maybe a little bit longer, and I still want it to be cold when I'm finishing it off. You know, like it's a warm August evening and like a simple lager, I think would be really satisfying. I'm not a baseball fan, so the beer and the conversation would really help me to enjoy
That-
the
that's
evening.
what
90% of what you
baseball-
do is have beer in one hand and conversation
In the other hand.
In the other hand.
Fun fact: the
Seriously.
reason our D&D group exists is because we went to a Hillsborough Hops game, and
Yes.
Dan heard me say Dungeon Master, and went, "Can you run games for us?"
Yes.
And it happened
and
in a
that is
baseball game.
exactly how it happened.
Yeah,
Really, I've just been riding along on this D&D group. I had no idea that was how it started. Okay.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Yes.
So Blake, what's your beer?
This speaks more to how I am with my friends at a baseball game. Bud Light, plastic cup, 4 to 5 before the game's over. Like the goal is to drink it like it's water, hang with buddies, yell, rotation of who gets them. Like
So-
just it doesn't have to be that cold. Just however it comes out of the tap, it's going to be warm because I'll be talking and watching the game and yelling and spilling some, and that's why it's Bud Light. I'm not sad if I spill a bunch.
So I'm surprised you didn't go with your Tecate Tall Boys.
Oh, Daniel, you know I'm a pub beer man now.
I know, but still, I mean, it's like Mexican lager
Well,
corn goes well with warmth.
It does, but I'm a pub beer boy.
All right.
But I feel bad if I spill that because it's locally made.
All right, Brian, you're up next.
All right, I've got to admit, Blake stole my thunder a little
Dab.
because
Tecate?
no,
Dan's a Tecate.
I'm not a baseball fan.
Uh-huh.
So I would want something that reminds me of a couple games I went to with my grandfather, and that would be a Bud Light in a red stadium cup, really cold, so you don't taste it.
Bud Light is a lager, Brian. This feels a lot like my answer.
Yes, but it's specifically Bud Light,
Okay.
because that's what's available at a stadium,
At a lot of
AAA
places,
stadium
you know.
in Indiana.
This sounds
Yeah,
like a nice
yeah.
memory, though, of like
Yeah.
going to a
I
game
like
with your
that.
grandfather.
Going to the game with the grandpa.
Did you
yeah.
get a fake little plastic hat or anything? With
No,
that?
like a
Usually
mini
it's-
bat, a little red mini
Oh,
bat.
yeah.
nice.
Yeah,
If it's
it
not
was
little-
it was Bat Tuesday.
If
or
it's not the
whatever.
little helmet, it's a little bat. Yeah.
Or now it's like bobblehead dolls and stuff. But
Yeah,
I
Funko
will say,
Pops are
my
awful.
grandpa always had the Minnesota Twins games on. He wasn't always paying attention to the TV, but like every time I visited him, if the Twins were playing, Minnesota Twins were on constantly.
yeah.
Daniel, what's your beer?
So I'm gonna do a Radler or
Oh.
something.
What a
that's-
beer snob.
I know. I'm like, yes, a lager
That's
of
half
some
grapefruit.
sort. Or
What a grapefruit snob.
you know, there's
Are those even sold at a baseball game?
Well, Dan's doing
but I would make
Dan's
one.
doing the
You
Richard
would
Hunt
bring it
move.
in your
bring it
cooler.
in.
Wait,
Yeah,
Dan's
Dan's doing the trick my dad taught me, which is you bring it with you.
no, Dan's flown to Amsterdam before all this has started. He's going in the Netherlands.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Watching
if
it-
you're watching a
watching it from
game
there.
in the States, they're probably not going to have, but you can order lemonade and you can order a lager. It doesn't matter what it is, and just mix them together.
So
There you go. There you go.
Dan, I made a Dutch joke, but are Radlers actually Dutch? Like, or where
I
are they
don't-
from?
Okay, so we had a Radler for one of our episodes.
Welcome to Movie and a History.
I don't remember the
It
exact,
depends if it's a Diamondback Rattler or a Timber Rattler
or a cottonmouth.
or a
Cottonmouth,
Cottonmouth Rattler.
Red to yellow, kill a fellow. Red to black, friend of Jack.
something like that.
Yeah, sure.
We saw what you did there. So,
Okay, I'll ask
Red,
Google.
so
Bum,
so
ba-da, bum.
the combination of beer and juice of some sort. Normally, it's a lemonade of some sort, usually really sweet, and you're just drinking it because you don't want to just drink warm beer. You want to drink something that's going to taste a little better. So you're going to mix something with it, and the easiest thing is there are
Interesting.
shandies and radlers, which are different, not necessarily the same. They don't necessarily have the same origin, but they are the same thing, basically.
Interesting.
Google says that the Radler was invented in Bavaria
Yes.
in 1922 by Franz Javier Kugler, the owner of the Kugler Arm Tavern in Destoven, Germany.
They invented snakes in Bavaria? That's cool.
So for extra points, what are the top 3 Dutch baseball teams?
The Hoboken Hogesend and
And the Hosenfelder?
the Hosenfelder, and then
And weirdly, the Orioles again.
I don't know the order.
and then the Globetrotters. So like,
So
Yeah, that's Dutch.
So the thing is, in Germany, because refrigeration, didn't really exist, and everything was at cellar temp. When the things such as like Coca-Cola and soda pop and other things that you can make, they've been making beer a really long time. So they're like, what can I mix with it? Because they want it to be accessible and they want to dilute it down with something that doesn't cost as much to make their profit stretch farther. So that's why if you go to a bar in Germany today or in most countries in Europe, you can get things, they'll have a menu that lists off things like diesel and Radler, and so these are different.
That's too cool.
Half Coca-Cola, half beer, or half different flavored fruit juices like grapefruit and lemonade. We traditionally think, oh, it's grapefruit and beer, but no, it's actually lemonade. The shandy is a lemonade,
Lemon lime.
usually, and not always these other flavors. So I think that would be one of the differences between what a shandy and a Radler is, but not always.
Google had indicated that it might just be like regionalisms. That it's the same idea of mixing in a citrus drink with beer and diluting it. It's just kind of where are you? And what's the local language for this type of drink? There also was a really charming story about this inventor having a group of cyclists come to his bar, and he didn't have enough beer for all the cyclists. And so he mixed some lemon juice that he had on hand with the beer to give them a watered down beer.
Stretch it.
Yeah,
To stretch it, spin it out, and then you let the cyclists be able to get home safely. And that's why I don't speak German. I'm not our German expert, but cyclists' leader is evidently the Radler Maas, which was the original name.
Wow.
Per Google, which it might not be true.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
fair.
it's on
but
the internet. It's
the way
gotta be
you,
true.
the way you sold it felt very official.
I could tell baseball stories like that too.
So the question
one right
is,
now.
do the Portland Pickles come up with their own Radler with pickle juice?
I mean, I drink it.
There are
Actually,
pickle beers.
I've had pickle beer and I love it.
I think you could do that because I mean the pickle juice has got that like bite and acidity to it, in the same way the citrus does.
There are a few breweries, and one that doesn't exist anymore, Coin Toss Brewing, which we visited, had and this was what they were known for, a pickle beer.
A pickle beer.
It was a lager that was half pickle juice, or maybe not half, but had pickle juice in it. And it was post fermentation, secondary. They just dumped the pickle juice in it, or they measured it out. They figured out a good proportion.
The marketing for this feels all wrong because they needed to make it like these like Hong Kong liqueurs where they got a dead snake in a glass jar that you could look at. Like they needed a pickle inside a glass jar that you could see that pickle was in the beer, and then when you drank the beer, you'd have the pickle afterwards.
That sounds
on
like something
board.
from Mexico, though. But that's a
That's not
really
a
good
worm.
idea. You could trademark that and like sell it to the Portland Pickles to do some
Moving to Beer
custom-
listeners, if any of you are venture capitalists, reach out to us at movingtobeer.com.
And keep an ear out for Beer in a Pickle with Aaron and Blake.
Yes. Or different pickled things. It doesn't have to be a cucumber. That's
No,
been
Dan,
pickled.
you're on the podcast. You don't get to say.
No, pickled asparagus is amazing. I like.
Oh no, I
you
do
can
love
pickle-
pickled.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love pickled
Right, right,
asparagus.
right.
I like pickling.
Brian, what's your
onions.
favorite pickled thing?
Cucumbers.
Oh, boo.
Oh, I get it.
Boo.
No, don't boo him. Don't shame
All right,
him.
so it sounds like none of
Food
us are in
shaming you.
particular baseball fans, but we all really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it was
it
a
was
good
fun.
suggestion. I mean, so there were two of us that hadn't seen it and two of us that had many times or a few times. And I think you were all pleasantly surprised. Those that had not seen it and was like, oh, this is a baseball movie. Well, no, it's a more coming of age. It really is. Baseball, again, is just a vehicle that they were using that they used as a way to become a group and a team and work together.
I think this movie will work for anybody that's old enough to have made neighborhood friends in the way that this movie kind of the plot device.
That's
goes.
the key thing. Yeah.
But also countries where there's a baseball tradition. So, Cuba, South Korea, Japan. Like, I think if we were to, plop this down in Zimbabwe, maybe Zimbabwe has a baseball tradition I'm not aware of. But it's
I
not,
do not
you're
know
right.
for sure. Brian?
I have no idea about Zimbabwe.
Who's our African expert tonight?
I don't know, but there are
I'll
teams
stare at
all over
Dan
the
really
world.
hard.
I know there are teams. Again, you can play this game.
Yeah.
It's known.
I feel like
Worldwide.
You can play anywhere because you just need to stick a ball and you don't even need mitts. You can just catch the ball with your hands.
we could do a remake with
You don't
soccer.
even need a ball. You could do it with a stick and a rock.
yeah.
Oh, no, we can
that's
make a
probably
remake.
happened.
We could do a soccer remake instead of Zimbabwe, and it would
yeah,
work.
maybe.
Yeah.
You know those movies already exist, right?
We watched that one with Keira Knightley and Bend It Like Beckham.
No,
we saw
we
that
haven't
movie.
seen we haven't seen Aaron's vision.
Correct.
It's Bend It Like Beckham. That's just mine.
Yeah.
But with your
You stole my idea.
with your head and two thumbs up, like I approve.
The opinions expressed during the taping of this recording are those of the host. Please,
Yes.
please don't get angry at us. We are. The soundtrack was really nice. They had some nice songs that not necessarily
love-
from that
I
time
love the
period.
soundtrack. I agree with the soundtrack decisions.
It was memory, a nice vehicle
Oh,
to tell
yeah.
a story through, and they borrowed and bended it a little bit and bended it not quite like Beckham, but they
Beckhammed.
did. You check this film out if you haven't seen it. If you're old enough to have had neighborhood friends,
Frankly, if you have seen it and it's been a while, watch it again.
It's
It's
a
a
good
really
film.
fun watch.
I would say that if you're not a fan of coming of age films
you'll be bored.
or nostalgic films, this won't work for you.
That's fair.
It's
Yeah.
pretty boring.
Yeah.
I didn't want to watch it because I was like, oh my God, here we go again. Another boring child coming of age story. But it's not quite the Goonies, but close. It does have some interesting activities, and the children in the film play really good roles. They're really good children actors. It's believable.
I hear Dan asking us to watch Goonies next.
I would love to not watch the Goonies.
Yeah, I veto that.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, guys.
I watched it a couple years ago. You're not missing anything.
It doesn't hold up.
Did not
Sean,
hold up.
I'll tell you right now, Sean Astin nails it. The rest of the movie's fine.
Are there other? So the Sandlot, I think we all enjoyed. Are there other coming of age movies that feel about as good?
Stand by
Stand
Me
By Me.
is probably the best known one.
Stand by Me is a good one. That's
And
also
also taxidermy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw you into traffic.
All right. So
I'm gonna feed you to the
Again,
beast.
Check it out on Movie and a Beer, episode 122.
Dan, put it in smashing sound
Or
effects,
something.
So I don't want to break your stuff.
I was so impressed you knew that, Brian. I was,
No, I have no idea what episode number it is.
I was like,
have
oh
to-
my God.
we'll have to like tape that down to the table here to make sure we remember what episode that was to never ever revisit it. But anyway,
Let's make a spreadsheet.
But recommend it every chance we get.
recommend it.
Oh,
all the
what
time.
an egghead.
So thanks for hanging out. Children appropriate. There's some
for sure.
unappropriate
It's rated PG.
things. There's some language issues where
Very
they try to
little.
insult each
Barely.
other.
Very
But
little.
it's not anything.
Dude, crap
kids
isn't a
don't-
swear word.
They hear it at school
Yeah.
and probably hear worse.
They've absolutely heard worse. It's rated
So-
PG. It's
Okay,
great.
I mean, if your child is old enough for social media,
Yeah,
then
and
they're
it-
4 years older than
was-
what they need for this movie.
It was PG back in 82 or whenever it was
93.
made.
93.
Well after they invented PG-13, thanks
Yeah,
to Gremlins exploding
I
a
would
gremlin.
say, I would say it's G rated now.
Yeah.
Definitely. So check it out if you want to find some good beers, some lighter stuff. I think both these beers went well with it, but I don't know. What any other thoughts on beer?
I was just gonna say, like those boys did on that super hot day where they went to the pool, they hydrated so they didn't dehydrated.
Correct. And we did try to hydrate a little bit during this, and I don't know.
During the
You
I did during the
guys-
podcast.
We
I went to
did.
the-
We did some water breaks, and because you have to. So thanks for listening, our fearless listeners.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, listener. We'll catch you on the Sandlot next time.
Dan, put in the sound of a baseball bat hitting a baseball. Yeah. Crap.
This is Brian. Listen to Taxidermy episode if you can. Sign it off.
Why would you do that to them?
All right, take care, everybody.
Far spacious skies